I'm here today with my high school head coach, Brent Hagen, who's now living on the, I guess, east coast of Iowa, over on the banks of the Mississippi. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Grader. Doing great.
It's good to see you after a lot of these years. The reason I'm doing this, and I had told you a little bit before, I talk to coaches all the time about who's inspired them, who are the great coaches that helped them become a good coach. And I wouldn't be sitting here today. I wouldn't be coaching at the state tournament this next week without having you have been in my corner. So I wanted to introduce everybody to you and kind of see where maybe I got some of my philosophy from.
Okay, that'd be great.
So
First
you
of all,
start.
go
Nope.
ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
you go ahead.
First of all, Troy, you found your passion and you have done amazing things with it. Keep up the good work. You're building wrestling. You're building girls wrestling, and that's great. Sport needs more people like you. So
Well,
appreciate
thank you. You started in Britt, Iowa. And Britt, Iowa used to be and probably still is a wrestling mecca in Iowa. How did you get started wrestling?
it. Well, it's kind of a family
I don't
tradition.
actually wrestle since I'm an AI, but if you're looking to start,
My
My
AI, all right, phone just went off.
my my dad actually started our tradition. He My mom and dad are both from Clarion, which was 30 miles to the south of Britt, and he was a great wrestler in high school, and he just had a love for it. When he never coached, he worked at a grocery store his whole life, but wrestling was where he got the Hagen family started. He was two-time state champion for Clarion in like 1943 and 1944, and then I've got this program from the 1943 state championships. It
Oh,
was in
wow.
it was in Clarion. Okay, so I think it was in Clarion in 93, 94, 95. He won as a sophomore, a junior, and then 1945. My mom and him, I don't know how long they'd been dating, but she was during the state tournament. They had a state tournament queen, and she was the state tournament queen. And I actually have a picture of him putting the crown on her. The rumor is that he was beating a guy, and she was over in the corner, and he winked at her, and he lost his attention and got pinned. So
Oh,
he could have well been a three-time state champion. But so I was born and raised till I was 6 years old in Clarion, which is a power. It's doing great this year. They've got a great
yeah.
team. And then we moved up to a town that had not had wrestling that long. It started in like 1946. Clarion had it in the 20s, but it was a powerhouse with a very young, excited coach who had been very successful as an athlete, and we couldn't have been better for my brother and I. So I'll always be a Brit boy, though I lived in Denison 32 years, and I really was only in Brit probably 16 years. My folks moved back when I was in college, but it was a great atmosphere to be a wrestler. I mean, it was the program. We 6 years in a row from when my brother's 4 years older than me. So his junior year, they got second in state to Algona. Their senior year, they won state. My freshman year, we won state. My sophomore year, we were state champions, and we moved up class to 2A. And then my junior and senior year, we were second. So 6 years in a row, they either got first or second.
Wow.
And that would have been from like 70 to 75. And the previous before that, Britt's the hometown of Iowa's first four-time state champion, Bob Steelage. And they had won state in 61 and 62 in a two-class system. So they were an A. But in 1956, having only had the program for 10 years, they got second in a one-class system. They lost to Davenport High School, which now is Davenport Central, by half a point. So,
Wow.
and so then they had that period of the 60s, and they had the period of the 70s, and along came the 80s, came the Kellys and Finches, and they were tough.
Yeah. They've just been amazing. I actually had an interview with Johnny Johnson. You know Johnny, don't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Johnny's still upset that the Hagens moved from Clarion to Britt.
yeah.
He mentioned that.
Yeah, I have two cousins that were in the. Well, I have three cousins that were in the same class as I was. So we would all graduated together. But my brother's always going to be a Clarion guy. Even though he wrestled for Britt, he's a Clarion. But I was 6 years old, and I don't even remember if I went to kindergarten. So
Well, your coach in high school, I heard a ton about him in our practices, Coach Al
yeah,
DeLeon. What was he like to have in the practice room?
he was a tremendous coach. Where he was, first of all, the room we had at Denison when you were
Yep.
there. We
Yeah.
had a room probably a little bit smaller than that, but you had 40 to 50 kids in it.
Wow.
We had to, and we didn't have it where we'd go run or lift. We didn't even have a weight room when I was there. They didn't have a weight. They had a universal gym in 1975. That was on the stage. So we would do split during the practice. He was tremendous technician, basics, nothing exotic, singles, doubles, stand ups, switches, concentrated on riding, but we knew our technique. And then eventually, so one group would go, half of the team would do technique, the other team would wait, then they'd do it, and you go to the side and sweat. And then we'd start wrestling, usually in groups of 3 or 4. And eventually, as the season went on, we would wrestle 2 6-minute matches and maybe 5 minutes on our feet. That's the hardest. So as we're wrestling that, he's telling us that nobody else, and we don't start running for tournaments until the week before sections. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
we're doing that training technique, that format. It would be basically the same format that when I had you as an athlete, we followed.
Yep.
But so we would do that, and then, but he had us convinced that we were the hardest working group in the state, that we deserved to. He didn't really mention winning state titles that much, but he had us convinced that we deserved to win state, whether it was a team or as an individual, that we had put the time in. So technique wise, I don't think there's probably a better coach. Mentally, he knew what to do to get you going. For some of us, it wasn't much. We were ready to go. For others, there had to be, he handled it well. Some things that probably other teams didn't do. I'll go back to the tournament training. So
Okay.
we would the week before sectionals, we didn't really have. I can't even remember a conference tournament. But looking back, that we did have a conference tournament my sophomore, junior, and senior. So a week out, we didn't have a duel or anything. So on the Saturday before that, we would go to the old elementary school, and it was built K-12. So it was a big building, and we'd go run hallway on first floor, go up the steps, run hallway on second, come down, do that about 8, 9, 10 times. And then the school had a pool in the basement. So we'd go into the pool. So I'll never forget that. Then Sunday, we wouldn't do anything. Monday, we'd come in before school and we would run sprints in the gym. Like the basketball team does those where you go out to the
Yep.
free throw, whatever. So we did those. We'd also run sprints. And then some of the time when we're doing the sprints, we had weighted vests. Okay, that his
Hmm.
wife Lois made, and we'd have weighted vests. And then we did that Monday, um, Tuesday, Wednesday, and every day he'd have his big thing was cornflakes, ice cream, and strawberries. So we'd have that for after the workout. We would do that, and Thursday and then we'd have afternoon practice. Basically the same practice that we had during the regular season. It never really ever altered. Later on, he started developing other. They had what was called a black flag practice, where it was just. I think he got that from Gable. He they'd just come in, he'd have a black flag there, and I guess they were grueling. But He was way ahead of his time in technique, but it was basic technique, you know. And he was mentally he had prepared to do well. The other thing, two other things that I'll mention. There's other things down the road he adapted, but he had us convinced Gatorade really wasn't out. He had us convinced that he invented Gatorade. So when we'd go run and stuff, he had that big, plastic cooler, and he'd put it
Uh-huh.
in stuff, and it was good, and we totally believed him that was the necessary. He was putting, it was better than water. Probably wasn't, but he had us convinced that. So he did a great job on that, and then a relaxation technique. Did I ever use that? Where
Yes, I had his tape actually.
Yeah, yeah. So we would the small wrestling room. You'd turn the lights off and uh, teach us how to. We start out laying on our back and squeeze our toes and tighten as tight as you can go, and then relax all the way up to the body till your face. And then he'd start telling us, okay, now start imagining the first period and what you're going to do in the first period and visualize that in a darkened wrestling room. And if you do it right, you're really relaxed. And
Yeah.
then you just start visualizing what you're doing. So he was a tremendous coach. It was a much easier time to be a wrestler, though. We were at the highest level you could be. I'm going to brag a little bit. I think people accuse me of too much, but not just the Hagen brothers. It was our next door neighbor, this one house away, Stevenson brothers, a 3-time state champion and a 2-time state champion. On the tough, I always called it. I don't know if I called it when you were there, but later I grew up in the toughest neighborhood in the country. And the kids would say, what are you talking about, Coach? I said, and it was, we had 22 state champions between First, Second, and Third Street, Southwest, and Britt. 22.
Wow.
I
That's
mean,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. So I'm counting my dad. So there's 8. De Leon was 3. But you had the Stevensons with 5. I was first 4-time state champion, lived on the First Street, Bob Steenledge. So a guy going into the high school Hall of Fame, Larry Highhouse, 2-time state champion, who actually won stayed at 165 when he was a junior, and then he couldn't beat the guy that came in the next year at 165, classmate. So Larry moved up to heavyweight and won state. And I got pictures. He was a man. So just a great neighborhood. It wasn't. It's special, but it was kind of like, you know what, that guy did it. Why can't I do it? So.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of almost that Harlan football team.
Yes.
They,
Yes.
they just expect to win,
Yeah.
right?
It's tradition. Right now, West Hancock, which is Brett combined with Kanawha, they have had individual success and they've had several good teams. But it's such a small school; it's hard to keep, get enough quality athletes. They're having trouble with numbers, which maybe down the road we'll discuss a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But when I was there were probably 60 kids in a class, half of them girls. So, I mean, average 60. There's 120 boys in it. There were 50 to 40 kids out every year. And they
Yeah.
did,
So yeah.
and they would wrestle even as senior. My brother had a gentleman in his class that would have placed very high in state if not won it, but he could never make the team. And then, so he wrestled JV his whole career.
Well,
And
isn't Bill, is it Billy?
Billy, no, it wasn't
Yeah.
Billy, but
Oh,
you
okay.
met Billy, and Billy never, Steve Dummett, not Steve, it was his brother, but he, Terry Dummett he never wrestled varsity. He was out very few times, but Billy Dahlman never got to wrestle. He never stepped on the varsity mat. Then he goes to Waldorf and does really well at the JUCO level. So,
Yeah.
and he's been there ever since.
And I see him coaching everyone. I think I saw him this year still. So
Yeah. He had 2 knees replaced 2 years ago, and he's not wrestling in the room anymore. But he's 70.
Yeah.
least, maybe 72. I don't know, somewhere in that vicinity. So they had tradition, and I don't really remember this so much, but everybody else I talked to is as you walked into the gym or to the lunchroom, they had all the state champions pictures up on the wall, and they took those down 10 years ago, and we have them. We actually had a wrestling reunion this summer. It was a great event.
Oh,
We had a lot of people came in that had. I saw teammates that I hadn't seen in 50 years. Three-time state runner-up Richie Nelson. I hadn't seen him since he graduated. So it
those
was,
are that's what's special about high school sports and high
yeah,
school teams.
yeah,
I've had that discussion with actually Aaron Gerlich at the union about between high school and club sport. And a lot of
yeah,
people are really clubs are huge now, right?
yeah,
And stuff. But it's like, how many clubs have a 10-year reunion, or for
yeah,
you guys, just a wrestling reunion?
yeah, yeah. It's just, that's something I, like I said earlier, I don't know if I could have wrestled in today. I wrestled 115 times in high school, and
Hmm.
I probably wrestled 160 times in college. So less than 300 times. Now, junior high, we probably, not counting that, but we didn't have little kids tournaments. My eighth grade year, Mark Stevenson, another three-time state champion, four-time finalist, and I went to Harlan. That's a long ways from Britt.
Yeah, it
And
is.
our coach and the guy that took us was the basketball coach. The head basketball coach at Britt was from Harlan or the Harlan area, so we went with him. So on the way back, he says, I think I'm going to start coaching wrestling. I had two champs, and I didn't really know him.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah. So, and then junior high, I don't think it was a split season, but we didn't wrestle maybe 6 times. So counting those, maybe I wrestled 20. So there's my 300 things. And my body I'm paying the price a little bit right now because of that. Now, if you add all those matches at youth level, and I played season sports by the season.
Yep.
Football, we'd all go down on the practice football field and play football in the fall, and then wrestle in the winter, and play tennis at the or basketball at the courts that were right next. And I tried everything. Wrestling was definitely my sport. I loved baseball. Maybe I baseball was a relaxation sport for me. I pitched a little bit. I could always blame if I threw a ball and it got hit out on the catcher because I wanted to throw a drop ball and he's had me throw my 60-mile-an-hour fastball. But I'm glad I grew up in that era. When it was wrestling season, I didn't play football, so I would start training first part of October. I'd go down to the track or run there. Like I said, we didn't have a weight room, so we did have a small weight set in the basement. So I would lift there, but it was not organized or anything. We did have an advantage at our house. We had a wrestling mat in the basement, and my dad never once told us anything different than Coach DeLeon, but he would always just say. Only thing I remember my dad saying, you put it in a half, you get underneath it, lift it up, post your forehead, not your ear, and get your your weight on your toes. That's all. And he was a pinner. He had a key lock, which was a it's an illegal move now, but he would do that. So, but we had a mat. So what would happen? We'd play a lot of knee football on it. My brother could kill me. I mean, he's 4 years older and bigger. But every day after practice, I'd bug him, and we'd go down there and we would wrestle. Not every day, but twice a week at least. We'd wrestle Oklahoma State, my team,
Uh-huh.
versus Iowa State because they were the two powers at the time, and he'd let me win now and then. Not very much, but he would let me win. But we'd go through every weight class. We'd start out 118, do the thing, and that was great.
Yeah.
And then 2 summers, Coach Dalen let us have a mat, and we rolled it out in our backyard. And Stevenson's were over there, and Dwayne Cook was a two-time state champion, was one block over, and Coach would stop by now and then. We'd wrestle a little bit, still played a lot of knee football, but it gave us advantage. And then I would go to Rummy Macias, who eventually became my college coach, had a camp, and Coach DeLeon, who was a clinician all over the country, he would go up there, and I'd go to a Albert Lee wrestling camp every summer. So, I learned a few things there and got to meet my future college coach. So,
Yeah.
and like I said, I played baseball and played golf. And I couldn't have handled the constant. I needed a break.
Yeah.
Um, so,
I talked to a lot of coaches about that it's kind of sad that a lot of kids they feel like they have to make that switch to one sport.
yeah,
And I think in the bigger schools you almost have to just to be be a varsity athlete, you almost have to do it year round. But every college coach I've talked to in this last year has said they like to recruit 2 to 3 sport athletes because
yeah,
they're
yeah,
just more athletic and
yeah,
so there's
yeah.
some disconnect.
Yeah, there. It's just I know. And I. It's fun to see a kindergartner and first grader and second grader in wrestling shoes and singlet. It's cute, but
Yeah.
then eventually, if they get beat
Yeah.
on, they don't really like it. So it's a thin line. The really good kids, they've been doing it forever, but you're losing some kids who would be great in high school, but
Yep.
they don't give it a chance.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's what
something
we do.
I've talked to people about that before. And again, Denison, was never really a big wrestling town. But I
Yeah,
remember, and maybe it's just nostalgic, but I sat there and I was in the late 80s, 86 to 89. And I remember having basically a full JV team, if not two, behind me every
yeah,
year. There was
yeah.
always there was always a lot of people on the teams. And now it seems like kids, if they're not varsity, they don't stay out.
No, no.
And so I don't know what happened there either. I don't know
Yeah,
if there's such an emphasis on winning that we worry too much about that and don't worry about just enjoying the sport. I don't know.
yeah. I'm currently helping out a little bit at North Scott, which has a really good wrestling program. It might be
Yeah.
if I was going to redevelop a program, I would follow their format. They have a lot of little kids in their program, so they might have 120 in the little kids program. It's all run by North Scott kids, people, whatever, former wrestlers. Then their junior high program, they probably have 30 to 40 um, in junior high. And the high school started out with like mid 40s, and it didn't, it's probably high 30s at least, finished the season. And they all know they're wrestling. There's like on the high school team, there were probably 4 or 5 that hadn't wrestled before. But no, it's a great program. So I'm glad I'm in it. I don't know how much I'm helping them, but I enjoy having something to do.
Yeah.
I'd worked at a grocery store, and when I hurt my knee, I decided to retire entirely. So yeah. So I don't know what I mean. You look around uh, the state of Iowa, and the teams that are very powerful, especially on the boys' side, generally have a good feeder program.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah,
You had always talked about developing. I remember you talking about this having like a elite group having like 4 or 5 kids in each weight or each class. So then when they got to high school, there'd be 20 kids that were kind of that elite number.
yeah.
Do you still hold that philosophy and
Oh,
kind of what was it?
I think so. I mean, I kind of learned that from the teams that I were on. Dual meet wise, we probably maybe in my freshman year we had maybe 11-2. We wrestled a real tough schedule. That time of the 70s, 60s, and 80s, early 80s, the North Central Iowa was where the power was. So we wrestled Algona, Eagle Grove, Clarion, Charles City, Mason City, Fort Dodge, East Waterloo. We had a really tough schedule. Our
Yeah.
conference just started picking up teams like Forest City and Lake Mills had wrestling. They're doing well now, but um, it was the powerhouse. And our teams were based on my senior year, we got second to state with 3 state champions. We had a lot of other guys that hadn't really wrestled varsity because the class before us had tremendous athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So my freshman year, we took 9 to state and all 9 placed, and we had 6 in the finals with 3 state champions. So that was, but then the next year we went to 2A, and Richie Nelson, who had been a 2-time runner-up, we lost him for the rest of the season. So we went to the state tournament with just 5 guys. And Eagle Grove went with 5 guys out of the same district. And I think we ended up with 3 state champions, runner-up, and a third. So that tells me we lost 1 match that year. Yep. And we beat Eagle Grove. And then the next year we went back and we got second to Eagle Grove. And I think we had, Mark was the state champion, I was the runner-up. I think we had 5 guys go that year too. So if you have 5 people that are going to score points for you at that level,
yep,
you're going to have success. It's harder. You don't see it in A so much, R3A, but in 2A, you still see it. If you have 5 really good kids, you're going to do okay at the state tournament.
Okay. So your college career, I know you went to 2 different places. How'd college go for you?
College was a great experience for me. My brother was probably one of the top 5 recruits in the country. He graduated in 1971. He went to Iowa State, and it was just not a good experience for him. So I went there really not. Troy, I don't think I ever really thought about much. I just did what my coach told me to do.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And I can't say I ever sat down and said, I want to be this, I want to win that. I just wanted it. But I did learn in college my freshman year, because it went from a cracker box wrestling room that was really hot. And my senior year, I cut probably from about 128 to 12, maybe 126, maybe not that much, 14 pounds, let's say, to 12. But then you got 2 pounds in January, 2 pounds in February. Well, you got 6 pounds by state tournament. So you actually can go up a weight class. You weighed in the morning before school, so you could cut more. Now with the rules, which is probably healthier and better for you, you couldn't do that. But when I went to college, I went to a room, 2 mats behind the bleachers in a relatively large arena. So it was not enclosed. It wasn't hot. And I probably started my freshman year at 130. And in college, you could get 3 pounds in November. So I had to get down to 121. And then they kept taking the pounds away from you. So that first year, I went from the most I wrestled, including all the tournament matches, was 30 matches a year. I mean, a season. Yeah, 30 matches a season. Well, that year, we went, back then, they didn't have any limit. So I still remember we went to the Minnesota Quad, and we'd have 3 matches there. That was Minnesota, Iowa, Mankato State, and UNI. So you go there. Then we'd go to the Bison Open in Fargo. Then we'd go to the Mankato Open. And those were like big tournaments. I don't think it was at Mankato, but maybe it was when I was at UNI. Wisconsin used to have an open, and you'd go to that. UNI had an open, and you'd go to that. And then my freshman year and then my senior year at UNI, I went to Midlands. And that was all before duels. And then at Mankato, the only way that they could have money for their program was they would go wrestle bigger schools. So my freshman year, we wrestled Utah State, New Mexico, and Arizona State. That was the trip we did over. So we wrestled those 4 times, okay? I wrestled 60 times as a freshman, 60 times as a freshman.
That's a lot of matches.
That's a lot of matches. And It was just different. But the thing that I found out early in the season with that cold open room with not a practice that was scheduled like Coach De Leon, I had to find somebody to show me the way. Okay. And that guy's name was Jack Eustace. He was a junior when I was a freshman. The year before that, I still remember from a recruiting trip, he went there, and I've only seen this twice in my life, but his ligament over his thumb was tore. So his thumb would go, him and
Oh
Kenny
wow.
Gates would go like that. So they
Uh-huh.
had to tape, put a tape on it when he wrestled. So about the second day of practice, I say, Jack, I'm a little worried. I'm not. And so he took me under his wing, and we would go through practice. Never really wrestled. He was maybe a little bit too big for me, or maybe I was scared of him. I don't know. But after practice, we would go to, there was an indoor running facility, weight room, and that we'd go run 2 miles in sweats, get a jump rope, jump 5 minutes, and then do 7 count push-ups. And that's how I trained, because the practice wasn't as organized or as tough as I needed to be.
Uh-huh.
So I got second in the country in Division II that year. Once again, I can't say, I don't think I would, before every time I wrestled, I got nervous, but I never knew who my opponent was. I didn't really care. I went out and did what my coach told me to do. So
Yep.
I went to Division II, and I wrestled a guy named, he was Randy. Anyway, he was the defending champion, the outstanding wrestler the year before at 118. And I wrestled him in the finals. I wish I had tape, because I've had 3 really exciting matches in my life, and that's one. So I think I had a big lead. I hit him with a carry, took him to his back. He tied it at the end, 12-12. So back then, you just wrestled. I don't know if it was a complete match, and I'm pretty sure in college I wrestled 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 8 minute
Okay.
match. So anyway, in overtime, he beat me like 4-0. But I'm thinking it's Burton. But anyway, so I had the success of being a national runner-up. I go to, if I get too wordy, just
Oh,
let me.
you're fine. You're fine.
I go,
Nope.
I go, I when I was in high school, my junior year, I wrestled a guy like too many times. That's why
Uh-huh.
I never I didn't want us to wrestle the same school that often. So I wrestled Rich Wilson 4 or 5 times during the
Hmm.
year. I beat him every time. The state tournament, he beat me.
Yep.
Nobody, I mean, really nobody remembers but me right now. But I, so my freshman year at Mankato, I wrestled Mike MacArthur from Minnesota. I wrestled him at the Minnesota Quad. My brother had pinned him the year before. He didn't tell me he'd also lost to him, but he had pinned him the year before when John wrestled at Mankato. So he says he's really good with his legs. He's a great rider. So I go there, take him down, I ride him a little bit. He ends up beating me like 4-3. So then the next week I go to the Bison Open. I meet him in the finals. He beats me again, but close. I go to the Mankato Open. We meet in the finals. And he beats me again. I actually got hurt, so I had to default out. I go to the Midlands with a bad ankle, and I'm wrestling him again everywhere I went. Fast forward, I wrestled him a duel. He'd always beaten me, but never bad. It was close. So I, as a Division II runner-up, go to Division I national tournament, and I guess who I got the first round. I flew from Minneapolis on a plane with Mike MacArthur. I got full round. He had 7 minutes and 45 seconds of riding time in that match of the first round. He took me down, rode me out, got a reversal and rode me out. 7 minutes, over 7 minutes of riding time in an 8 minute match.
Wow.
The guy was toying with me, is what he was, I think. So that was my freshman year. My sophomore year, I found a weight room. I got up to about 150 pounds. And my intentions were to wrestle 18. But when you wrestle that many duels, I couldn't hold it. So I asked Coach Macius if I could try out at 126. And he said, no, we've got a senior here, and he he deserves the spot. So I didn't know what to do. So De Leon on a Tuesday after practice, him and Rummy were really tight. He drove up and he talked in that I could go to Mankato East or Mankato West. So I worked out with them for a month.
Uh-huh.
Now I wrestled 126 against Augustana and someone, the 126-pound senior was, but I never went to Mankato practices. I needed a hot room. So
Yep.
I finally got down, and only time I wrestled was the preseason, and then I didn't even wrestle the conference. I wrestled the national tournament. So I had probably only wrestled 14 times because whatever that I got down to weight, and I ended up winning Division II. I regret the next thing that happened, but I didn't handle that well with Rumby. I walked off the mat and I said, Coach, I'm not going to go to Division I because I can't. It's been heck,
Yep.
it's too tough. So I should have not have ever done that. I shouldn't have done it right then. I still regret that, but I should have at that point in time transferred. So I hurt my knee in the summer playing softball between my sophomore and junior year. Went to two doctors, one in Brent, one in Clarion, actually three, one in Clear Lake. They thought I just bruised my knee. But as soon as Mankato started late because the Vikings trained on their campus. So mid to late September, we'd go up. That's when you started school. And the trainer, I'm limping. And the trainer says,
Yep.
Rummy says, what's wrong with the leg? And I said, I hurt it this summer. So I had my cartilage removed, cartilage removed like a week later. And then I just started training too early. So I only wrestled one match my junior year. And I ended up going to UNI, and I should have gone.
Uh-huh.
I should have gone to UNI after my sophomore year. It just wasn't working. It wasn't, when you go from a coach who made it easy for you, all you had to do is show up at the room and train and do what he said, to another coach that was a great coach. Rummy he's like the father of wrestling in Minnesota. But it was hard for me because I needed guidance.
Yep. Everybody needs a little something different, don't they?
Yeah, I needed guidance. I needed somebody to show. Like I said, I just needed that. So I should have gone to UNI because would have been more of the program that I needed. I go to the UNI and I knew Keith Pullman, a national champ for him. It was great. Chuck Patton there saved my career because I think my folks thought I was done after John being kind of having a thing. But I wasn't done. I just needed so I redshirted 1 year, wrestled some open tournaments, and then I wrestled 1 year on varsity at UNI. I got second in Division II. I ran into John Azevedo, who was Olympian in 1980, maybe 84. He was really good. So I got beat by him, and then I went to Division I, and I don't know. I got beat early on, so that's kind of my college career. But it was very enjoyable. I had a lot of success. I met some great teammates at both Mankato and UNI. Kenny Gallagher was the national champion. UNI, my senior year, we got second in the country in Division II. Won a conference. I think Bakersfield probably was the national champion.
Yeah.
But
so was losing West Jim a rough day for you too?
kind of, I was more of a hired gun there. It wasn't like, I came in, but no, it was fun to wrestle in the West Gym. We wrestled a few times. Like when we wrestled Iowa State, we wrestled in the Dome.
Uh-huh.
So I told you there were two matches or three. The one was the Division II, Randy Batten. That's who it was from Tennessee, Chattanooga. The next one is a guy named Ricky Delegata from Kentucky. That was the other thing I was going to tell you. Nobody realizes that the SEC had wrestling, and it was good. I mean, I wrestled, whether it's a Mankato State or UNI, I wrestled Kentucky, Auburn, LSU. I think they all had it. Florida had it. and then next thing you know, they've got to spend money on their football program, so
Yeah.
they dropped it. It was a guy from Kentucky named Ricky Delegata, and he is from New Jersey. And the first time I met him was in the practice room at the University of Kentucky, and I think I was probably a freshman, and Coach Macius says, "Hey, go roll around with that guy." So I go around with that guy, and at the first I'm thinking, "God, this guy's not doing anything." And the next thing I know, he's throwing me left, he's throwing me right, and we had a good scrap then. So I kind of forgot about him, and then when I was at UNI, I wrestled him twice. Once in the Midlands, and uh, I didn't wrestle very well in the Midlands, but in the duel at UNI, I swear that match ended 21-20. I lost. It was just like back then they did not have technical falls like
Nope.
you could. So I scored. The other thing in college that helped me is Jim Miller. He wasn't a coach at UNI at the time, uh, Warburg coach, but uh, he would appear now and then. And when I was a senior, I started out at 34 because I ended up going 26 or whatever the weight class was. But I'm wrestling him one day in practice. He says, "You know what? I'm going to tell you a little secret that helped me." He says, "You got to go as hard as you can for as long as you can every day, whether that's practice, whether that's a meet, and then just take one step further," which is, great advice. It's kind of like
Yeah.
do it
I, I
anyway. You're
I
getting,
think
you're
I,
just,
I think I heard that advice about a million times. Wrestle as
yeah,
hard as you can for as long as you can.
yeah,
My kids have heard that about a million times. So that
yeah,
coaching came from that came from Jim Miller, huh?
yeah. I did, and he wasn't even a coach. He was at Charles City at that time, so
Uh-huh.
he gave me that advice, and that helped me my senior year. I turned it around, you know, the last two months of the season, because and not it was not like today to train year round, but at UNI the season was definitely longer than and more intense than Mankato. Mankato basically just started when the season started
Uh-huh.
and then lift weights or do whatever you did on the own. But I can't say I ever went up to the wrestling room in Mankato on my own. UNI you could go in and practice about any time, and they were starting to get thinking about going Division 1, so they started picking up,
Hmm.
the practices. But Coach Patton taught me the intervals. I'm assuming you wrestled intervals
Yep.
for us,
Yep. Wrestled
right?
intervals, ran intervals.
Yeah, yeah. I learned that from at UNI, and the technique part was from De Leon. Where I probably, as I look back on my coaching career, I probably made my mistake was I didn't go out to many camps and learn new technique. I don't know if I was too busy with my family or coaching. I should have done that
Yep.
and kept up to date with the
It's
technique.
it's a whole lot easier now because that
Yeah,
technique is just readily available every
yeah,
day, all day.
yeah. I do it now, and I don't. I mean, I just show up at the North Scott room. I can't show them anything, but
Yep.
I see a problem that a kid's having right now, and I'm trying to solve it for him. But it is very hard to work technique if you can't, at least for me, if you can't perform the technique.
I'm struggling with that right now. I haven't been able to wrestle more than a couple minutes. I can't take a shot to save my life because my knees don't work.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's hard.
yeah,
So I have to, show the technique in different. I'll start in on the leg, get, good position.
yeah.
And then I have to have one of my more experienced wrestlers actually show the shot all the way through,
I
which
know.
is, it's good for them to learn though too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm.
so you graduate from UNI and you
Yeah,
get the job. And I'm going to guess that at the time when you got the Denison job, it wasn't supposed to be your 25, 30-year career.
yeah. I'm going to switch. It won't take me very long. So you talk a little bit. I'll be right
All right.
back.
All right. I can always cut it out too. It's not a problem.
Okay. So I got my Monarch Wrestling
Still
sweatshirt
got
up.
it. Still
And
got
then,
it.
and then the Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame in Cresco, in Iowa, we wrestle shirt, purple and gold for the old Denison Monarchs.
Very nice. So was it your intention to come to Denison and stay for how many years did you stay in Denison?
I was in 32 years. Yeah,
32 years.
yeah, I'm steady. I can't say, once again, I told you, I can't say if I set a goal. I did interview down the road because my wife is from the Quad Cities,
Hmm.
and she wanted to go home. All of her family was around. So I sent a letter to Chuck Van Heck, who had hired me at Denison when he has at Muscatine applied. That wasn't a job that I really probably wanted, but I had interviews at Waverly Shell Rock and at Mount Vernon. Well, you know what? In Charles City. So I interviewed at Charles City, Waverly Shell Rock, and Mount Vernon. Three Rossin Powers at the time.
Yep.
I didn't get the job. Most of the time it went to people from that area. I still remember in the Charles City interview that I explained my practice thing, and he said, "Well, that's pretty rigid. You don't really ever change." I says, "I adjust, but where I came from, we had a lot of success, and this was early in my career. We had
Yep.
a lot of success with it, so I'm going to follow what Coach DeLeon taught me." And I don't know, so I didn't get that job. So Denison was a great place to raise two fine daughters, and the staff was really good. The administration was helpful. Um, it was an experience that, as I look back on now, I had some things going, and then there was some other things that I should have. I'll give you an example, and you were involved in it. I think the thing you asked me what about Denison,
Yep.
like what do I remember the highlights? Well, I started in 81, 82, and your brother Todd and Pat Cullen were the two seniors that year, I think.
My brother is 83.
83. So,
Yep.
and then Pat Cullen, would he have been in your brother's?
I can't remember. That name doesn't
Yeah.
ring a bell, so it probably was.
So 81, 82, somewhere in that area I started. And was going to follow De Leon's path for a youth thing. So in Britt, we would have, after the season done, we would have a little kids tournament of just Britt kids, but 3 weeks of technique, like 3 days a week for 3 weeks. So 9 practices. And then on
Hmm.
the following Monday or Tuesday, to have a tournament. So I thought I'm going to do that. So I got the elementary school to do it, and I'm proud of this. We got a non-wrestling town wrestling.
Yep.
So started this elementary thing, took the mats down there, kept them there for 3 weeks, and we would have a week of technique with the kids, and then we'd divide into teams. So I think we had like 6 teams, 4 teams, and they'd wrestle duels.
Yeah, I remember that very well.
that
That's
that 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 led to our success down the road. Um, and we did that for a number of years. Bill Minigay, the coach before me, I think Denison probably started wrestling in 71, 72, somewhere around there.
mhm.
So it hadn't had wrestling long. And Bill helped me, who was the head coach. He helped me develop this thing. And, a lot of people came out of that. And I don't remember the parents being there so much, which is probably good. But the duels, the kids got excited about them.
Yeah.
So I should have kept that. And then they offered me the girls golf job, and I loved coaching girls golf. I had great kids, but it took too much away from wrestling, and we never really had a good youth program after that. And that's how
Yeah.
you got a good youth program.
Yeah.
So I wish I would. That's one thing I would have changed as far as developing the program, because you don't need to teach kids the basics when they're freshmen in high school.
Yeah. Yep.
So I got the job at Denison. I taught PE. I coached a wrestling, and I had 20 years as a head coach. we had about a 5, 6 year period where we were pretty good. We like 10-3, 11-1, 12 and something. We had an undefeated 16-0 season.
Yep.
Had 6 guys that qualified state. And the other thing is Denison was right on that borderline. It's always been on the borderline of in wrestling being 2A or 3A. I think
Mm-hmm.
we first started, we were 2A, and then eventually we became 3A. And I'm figuring, we're always going to be 3A. So we had a team that was like 10-1. And we won the Ida Grove tournament, a Herb Ergen tournament.
Herbergens, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we won that like 4 or 5 times in a row.
I
And
was on that team that won it the first time, my junior
yeah,
year.
yeah. So there was this team with not a lot of kids, but that they had a Matheson,
Mm-hmm.
a White Neck, and they had some studs. So I just started talking to their head coach, and I'm saying, hey, would you guys be interested in maybe hooking up and forming a team? So I went in front of their school board at Sleswig, the school board at Denison, and we got Sleswig in there, and we went on a run. And then we found out we're going to be 3A anyway. So IKM had never had wrestling, but there was a family, Ishai family and the
Yep.
Rasmussen family were interested in wrestling. So they came in. So IKM, Sleswig, and Denison, and then finally Charter Oak or Dow City or somebody came in for a while. But
Yep.
that gave us a good nucleus of kids, and it was remarkable how well they meshed. I mean, they're still lifelong friends.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to see them so much. Actually, I had 2 assistants during that time. Steve Slater, who was from Denison, he taught at Denison, and he was administrator. And then Lonnie Cantrell, who was the wrestling coach at Sleswig, he knew a lot of wrestling. He'd been everywhere. He'd been at Waco and had a guy that wrestled my brother in the finals, and then he'd been at school over by Des Moines that had wrestled Dwayne Cook in the finals. And Lonnie didn't like Brit Boys, but he knew that it was a good situation. And Maxwell Collins, that's where he taught.
Oh yeah.
But he and coach. So he'd been everywhere, and he came. It was a perfect combination. Lonnie would bring the kids down here, but if we're going to have morning practices, runs and stuff, he'd run the kids up there. He'd weigh them up there. They'd have breakfast for him, and it worked out really well. That's Lonnie just passed away less than a year ago, and I had seen him at the Britt played East Buchanan, and West Hancock played East Buchanan in the state semifinals in football. So we sat by each other and talked. I says, Lonnie, we got to get that era back together because it was fun. It's fun winning. It's
Yeah.
16-year-old, had some great kids, the Matheson brothers, had a lot of brothers, greeters, whatever, Cobb, Barons. They were all, anytime you can get family involved, they get the itch, and they like, they do a lot for wrestling. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Um, I learned technique from you by technique by the number.
yeah.
Was that how DeLeon taught
Yeah.
technique?
Actually, I was trying to find Dylan wrote a book. And I still have a copy or two of it, but I couldn't find it. So that's how he taught. 1, 2, if you're gonna do a stand up, whatever. But
Yep.
that's how I was taught. Not a lot of coaches do that, but and especially if the kids are more advanced. But I think it's an excellent technique if you're a junior high coach or a lower level
Yeah.
grade
Well, I'll
coach.
tell you, when I went to Dana, which Brent Johnson and White Nick and I all went to Dana together,
Okay.
and Ron Beam, and not Ron was not, I mean, Ron was a feed salesman that did it to keep the program there. It
Yeah.
he wasn't paid very much, but he said in all his years that us three Denison boys had some of the best technique he'd ever coached. Maybe not the best wrestlers, but the best
Yeah.
technique, so,
Oh, good. Yeah.
so
There,
that's something important.
like I said, it was you teach how you're taught, and That's how Coach De Leon did it. I could do that in the sleep back when I was younger. So
Well, this is a girls wrestling podcast, but I mean, we're always talking wrestling, but you did coach a couple different girls sports,
yes, I did.
cross country, and you said golf.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think there is any difference in coaching the girls or boys? Do you think girls are different to coach?
I will say this. Sometimes it's the boys too, but especially in golf, maybe not so much in cross country, but I think you got to give them about 10 or 15 minutes before practice gets started to just socialize, just talk, because
Mhm.
they can get that out. And then I will tell you right now, Troy, I know you ran on the boys team, but the toughest cross country runners I had were girls at
Yeah,
Dennis.
I wasn't a very good runner,
They
so
were mentally tough though. Carlin Colin and Amy and all those girls. And then later on as assistant coach with Coach Neppo, those
yep,
girls were just tough. And cross country is a lot like wrestling, you know. You get back from it what you put into it. And
yep.
they were willing to, and I, as you well know, I only ran to make weight and I wasn't a runner. So I didn't really know anything about it. Some things Ron Forrest would help me,
Yep.
who was a runner, and but I enjoyed cross country. It's a great sport. If you're not big enough to play football or have no interest in it, I recommend it for anyone. And it's not easy to run 3 point, 5K or whatever it is, but
Well,
uh,
I think you actually might have bamboozled me because when I started, it was a 2 mile, and 2 mile was great.
yeah,
I could run 2 miles, but that 3.1 that was rough.
yeah, it was, but it's like you start out the season, it's hot. By the end of the state tournament time, it's snowing. It's just the courses generally, other than Denison, is you ran it on a golf course, and I got a good workout because I tried again. I got a chance to coach my daughter, Erin. My daughters were very involved, but nothing, they weren't going to wrestle. They didn't have girls wrestling at the time. Katie
Yep.
keeps telling me she would have been a good wrestler, but I don't think Erin had any interest. But I got to coach her in that. So I enjoyed coaching cross country. I think with Amy and that group, I think we either got fourth or maybe 1 year Carl Colin would have ran with that group.
I think so.
Yeah,
Because
that was
I've actually talked to Amy a few times. I keep in touch with Amy Linen quite a bit
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah,
So yeah, those girls were really good. And Kathy Forrest and I'm
yeah,
trying to think Polakowski was in that
yeah,
group and
yeah. It was just we had success. The girls qualified like every year that I was the head coach, and then I came back as an assistant for L and Aaron's 4 years. They qualified every year for state. Um, I never played. The one group got fourth, I think, in the state, but never placed big. I don't know, up high in the standings. But it was a great experience for me. Girls golf's a little different. Once again, I knew how to golf. Wasn't a great golfer. Wrestling, I knew how to wrestle, and
yep,
I wasn't bad at wrestling. So I knew all the techniques. So I went to a couple golf clinics and learned just enough basics to teach them how to golf. Which even at Denison, they pretty much came in raw as a freshman. They
hmm
hadn't much experience unless their dad golfed. Like the two best golfers I had were a Powers girl and her dad Tom had golfed a lot.
yep.
So Ashley knew how to golf, and a Haas girl, Rita Haas, and they were both really good golfers. Had some good teams involving that, and I had a chance to coach my daughter Katie in it. So, um, like I said, I did that. I think 22 years. I started out. I drove the bus for the boys teams, and when they had duels and played a little golf, and that finally the golf coach must have resigned. So they asked me, and I'm glad I did it. I wish I could have helped them more. Like if they were having a problem with a slice or something like that, I knew the drills, but I really couldn't help them as much as I should have.
Yeah. Um, if we look at coaching, There's a lot to it, and that's I think when I first started coaching, I thought it was all about winning and being tough and being better than the kids that I was coaching, but it's really what you're teaching them for later on. Can you think of like kind of the legacy? What culture? What did you want the kids to get out of your coaching? What did you want them to take forward?
I wanted them to know that what they're learning now in the wrestling room is going to carry them on the rest of their life. Discipline. It's not going to be given to you. You just got to show up every day and do it. Work hard. If you like grocery store, I worked at the grocery store for 10 years. And you know what? When I walked in that door, I worked as hard as I could. So I walked out of that door, and I wasn't a young person at the time. I wanted them to learn to be humble. Okay. If you win, you win. Don't go get all excited. I wanted to, I wanted them to be good teammates because we talk about a team as a family. Well, I want you to be able to call up someone that was on your team and be able to just get together like you'd seen each other yesterday. So I had some other things down here that I had written, but hard work, discipline, tenacity, dedication, those are all things that carry out into real life. So wins and losses, unless you're talking and having a podcast with Troy Greeter, you don't really remember much of those.
Yeah.
But the rest of the stuff, set goals, wake up in the morning. And I can't say I ever wrote a lot of goals down, but every day I get up now, I have what I want to get done. I'm going to go to the Y. I'm going to go to practice. I'm going to do that. And then, I'm not really a great example of it, but in wrestling, it teaches, you learn body awareness, you learn spatial awareness, you learn how to get in shape, you learn how, flexibility and stuff like that. It's things that'll carry on for the rest of your life. So I do like the winning part of it though, but
I can't say that I hate I hate winning. That's a really
yeah,
fun part. But
no, but
I've sometimes my favorite people to coach though. I'll give you an example. This year, we have a young lady in that's actually the German foreign exchange student.
okay.
Never didn't even know what wrestling was when she walked into the room. Her parents thought it was going to be professional wrestling, much as an Ernie Sigabart had thought it was going to be wrestling,
I
you know.
just I
But
just told that story last night, Troy.
but she ended up, didn't very strong young lady, just but and very good athlete. She plays on the German handball team, and that's a whole different sport that I never had any idea about,
Yeah,
but it's kind of fun to watch. But she ended up getting third at our regional. I think
okay.
she ended up with 15 or 16 wins, one match away from going to the state tournament.
Wow.
And just a humble kid, fun every day. She makes fun of me, I make fun of her.
Yeah,
But those are the kids I'm going to probably remember more so than, yeah, of course you're going to remember the ones that, placed at state tournament, but
yeah,
just those stories of those kids that really impacted my life as much.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you. I remember. I can't even remember the name, but I remember a kid who came out as the manager for cross country when Coach Nepple and I were there, and he was not in the best of shape, and he was just a manager. Next thing you know, he wanted to run. Coach and I said, I don't think you're quite ready. Well, by the time he was a senior, he was the number one runner on the team. Came out as the manager, fell in love with the sport, dedicated to it, and turned out to be a great runner. So you never know who's gonna be the one
Well,
that steps up.
kind of talking about that, we can't not mention Tony DeAnda because he's coaching college women's sport. He's been coaching women forever at several different places, but he had a unique story with Tony DeAnda.
Yeah. So the best season we had at Denison was 1990-91. We'd been with Schleswig for 2 years. Matt Mathieson had placed in Class A the 2 years before that, but 90-91. And before that, though, Tony was built like a wrestler, like 103 pounder, 112, short. And I had known about him. Um, and I heard he was going to the ninth grade basketball meeting. So I just walked in. I said, Tony, look at you. You're like me. We can shoot as much as we want, but I convinced him to come out for wrestling as a freshman. And he came out, had a very successful season. He had to go at the Ida Grove tournament. He got to I can't remember if he got quarterfinals and then the semifinals the next morning. But his family was going to go back to Mexico for that. So he went back. He came back, finished the season, had a great season. And next thing I know, his family's moving to Sioux City. I've had so many stories about kids, good families that made adjustments for jobs or whatever that left the district. And so going to the 90-91 season, we had strengthened our schedule. When you wrestled, we were probably in the Midwest Conference.
Yeah.
So that was like Jefferson and Audubon, great conference. And we eventually won that. Jefferson and Audubon were the powers, but we eventually won it. But we get to that 90-91. I think we're still in the anyway. We were wrestling Sioux City Healing, and Tony's wrestling for him. So I had an undefeated team with 6 state qualifiers, should have been 7. Brent Johnson got ripped off in the district finals or semifinals. I had another kid that was undefeated till the finals, broke his hands like week before. So we should have, and Tony is wrestling for Sioux City Healing. And I swear, was that the year he won state for Healing?
That could have been the year you won state for Healing.
Yeah. So he would have been on that team. He would have we had a tough lineup anyway, but he turned up, and then he went on and had a great college career. You might know more. I know he wrestled at Augustana, the national championship, and then Nebraska.
Yep. And then I ran into him. I can't remember if like 2004, 3, somewhere there, the world team trials were at Ames. I can't remember the exact year, but I had tickets for it. So somewhere in there. And I'm listening, I hear Tony Deanda to Matt, whatever. And I was like, there is no way that's the same Tony Deanda.
Yeah.
And he was wrestling for New York Athletic Club, and he was living out at the Olympic Training Center. So I kind of renewed I'd known him in high school, and we kind of renewed our friendship. And now I talk to him every once in a while, kind of help him recruiting everyone with somebody if he knows someone. So no, that's really cool.
I got a couple other things. I don't know how much time we have left.
Oh, you got much time as we need.
Okay. So I had some great assistants over the time while I was at Denison. When I first started was a guy named Dennis Dykstra. He was huge, big guy.
Yep. I remember him.
Yeah.
He was my middle school coach one year, I think.
But he knew wrestling. So he wrestled 98 pounds. He's from like Orange City or someplace up in Northwest Iowa. But I had him. And he left, and the next coach I got was Mike Cooper, who was a football coach. He was the head football coach, and he didn't know anything about wrestling. He'd gone to Healing, but he didn't know anything about wrestling. And he's my assistant. And and you know what? I think was he assistant coach when you were there?
I think he was my assistant coach freshman year, maybe freshman, sophomore year.
So you probably didn't even know this happened, but he comes up to me and he says, Coach, you got to make it simple. You just got to make it simple. You're showing too many moves, which I probably was. You're showing too many moves. You just got to pick out these moves, whatever moves you want. Just show them the basics and concentrate on riding. So I turned it around. I showed just basic moves. I especially worked on what we call the Brit ride. You know, so
cross wrist.
Yeah, cross wrist. We worked on just simple moves, and you know what? We got better because we didn't. Their minds weren't complicated. I'm finding now that kids, especially nowadays, and I didn't really. I said move your feet, do that, but now if you watch Penn State, they're constantly moving. Whether it's their feet or their hands, they're constantly moving. So I'm trying to help North Scott do that, but. Get that concept, but it's hard to do. But there was a Nelson kid who really wasn't talented, but I still remember him winning a lot of matches by riding the guy out and wearing him out, and then he
Yep.
went by a point or two. So that was the start of our team starting to get better because I wasn't throwing that much. And what I showed you isn't close to what they show now,
Oh yeah.
knee slide or any of this stuff. But nowadays, you don't see a switch. You hardly
No.
ever see. Maybe you tell me if the girls do this, but the guys, I never see a switch. You never see a short sit to a Granby or a short sit to a turn in or anything like. It's just basically a tripod stand up or a stand up.
Yep.
No rolls really. Um, so I was probably showing him too much. But nowadays, gosh, that technique like shelfing the leg and stuff, or you shoot a single, and I always taught you to just come up if your head was the
Yep.
inside, come up the middle and go like this. Well,
Yes.
that's like non-existent. Like
Yeah, there's so much
there's
scrambling. I will tell you though that I have gone back to cross wrist ride
okay,
because sometimes we get girls, a lot of their hips are so good, a lot of rolls happen. You can't
yeah,
get rolled in a cross wrist ride.
yeah,
So I've
yeah,
gone back to that.
yeah.
And I do teach the girls the same series of short sit out
Okay,
that's was my favorite thing to do is short
yeah,
sit outs. But we
yeah,
use that quad pod stand up all the time.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
successful with it.
Yes, yes. I learned the short sit out stuff. I didn't learn that from De Leon, Bob Dara, the coach at Dowling.
Oh,
They
uh-huh.
would go up to Heelan tournament and they would stop in and practice in a room. And so I learned that from him. I tried to steal as much as I could from the coach at Jefferson, who was very successful at that time. Now he's
Hmm.
the announcer at Iowa State. I got his whole practice schedule. So like I went from a wrestler to a head job at a relatively large school with not much wrestling experience. I wish I would have now, looking back, I wish I would have been a assistant
Assistant.
coach for a couple of years. I could handle it because Daniel gave me enough technique wise. I felt comfortable. I actually wasn't overwhelmed. There wasn't nearly the paperwork that you guys have now, but I could have, I could have changed. I think I would have been better at
I
that.
I'll tell you, so I was assistant under you, assistant under Tassler. Sometimes we learn from our mistakes. I won't say much more about that.
Yeah.
Um, and then, I went and coached at Dana a couple years, which really changed the way I looked at things. Moved back here, and I coached under Lance Schultz
Okay.
at South Central Calhoun, and
Yeah.
man, I learned a lot there. And then John Weavers, another Denison connection, was the guy
Yeah.
that gave. It was COVID time, and he said, I was gonna go coach the girls anyway, but as a volunteer assistant. And he
Yeah.
said, well, my head coach left and the AD left, and why don't you just be the head coach? And I said, I'll do it as long as you hire another young man that you probably know, Parker Proyle. I
Okay.
said, if you hire him next year as the head coach, I'll
Yeah.
do it because I don't want to coach boys. I want to coach the girls
Yeah.
and stuff. So the very first meet I went to, I didn't know anything about track wrestling. I
Okay.
didn't even have our kids in the tournament.
Okay.
I had
Yeah.
no, I showed up. I
Well,
said, here's my weigh-in sheet. He goes, you're not in the tournament, coach. Like, what do you mean? I don't understand. So yeah,
yeah.
I was an assistant for a long time, and it's tough to make that transition. And
Yeah.
it's easy to be an assistant and wrestle with kids every
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
to then design the practice and then
Yeah.
to be able to adjust during practice when they kind of lose their focus or what, I mean, that
Yeah.
happens, and you got to just change on a dime. That's a hard skill, and
Yeah.
it's
It is.
taken me a few years.
So I learned how to, I had practice schedules, but Don Lyons, the basketball coach, he had the
Yep.
most, his practice schedules were like by the second. And I
Uh-huh.
stole that from him, which helped. I'd have 10 minutes of that. You can run over it, come short, but at least it gave you a format for that. So I'm coaching. I'm not coaching. I'm at the MAC tournament, Bettendorf, PV, North Scott,
Yep.
Saturday at Assumption. And I had noticed this at a dual thing at Western Dubuque. Anyway, now they don't call the wrestlers to the mats. All the kids have phones and they're going off
Yep.
track wrestling there. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
Couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. So
It's
at the beginning of the tournament, the kids really have no idea. They're not into it yet. But then the rest of the tournament, they're looking at their phone all the time to kind of figure out where they're going to be. So
yeah.
I would have, and then like the weight management, I wouldn't have liked that. So then after the 20 years as head coach, I was assistant for Tassler for 1 year, and then I was junior high coach the last
Uh-huh.
10 years. I was Steve Slater's um, assistant for a year or two, and then I was the head coach. I really enjoyed that. I was good at that area because my technique was perfect, and then
Yep.
whoever was the head coach could do it. I other than setting up a junior high dual, an event, which is a
Yep.
pain. I really liked junior high coaching because it was the
It's
season wasn't as long. You didn't really have to worry about them making weight.
yeah.
Um,
There's you weigh them in a couple times.
yeah,
They
yeah,
just go wrestle. That's the
yeah,
fun part.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm kind of getting to the point. Maybe you can help me with this because you had to make this decision. I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm trying to decide how much longer I'm going to coach.
yeah.
How did you know it was time?
I knew when it was time for me to get out of head coaching was when I got too worried about the athletes getting injured. That was that was a big thing for me. I didn't. I got tired of when I first started. I ran a little kids program. I had the tournament, which is the big fundraiser. I'd helped for the JV Invitational, but that was another fundraiser. My assistants were good, but I didn't distribute as much as I should have amongst my assistants. Um, so I was wore out that way too. I think I saw the weight thing in the future. I knew I didn't want that. And I wanted to spend more time with my kids were about that age. In 20 years, you look at it, Gable only coached about 20, 21 years. It's tough to be a head coach,
Yep.
especially in wrestling.
Yeah.
So I knew it was time for me that. The other ending point was my wife telling me that we needed to move to Davenport. So I finished junior high wrestling and girls golf. I only coached cross country when Coach Nepple was the head coach, and when he left, that I maybe stayed one more year, and then I knew it was time.
You just knew it was time.
Yeah, yeah. It was just I I I just I knew. So physically, if you still can do it, which it sounds like, you'll know. You will know when it's time. And the other thing that I would do if you have the opportunity is try to pick, who your successor is going to be. Who's gonna move into the room. I
Yep.
don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have very many assistants and stuff?
I have couple assistants. My main assistant that started with me, he's a professor at BV.
Okay.
His kids all wrestled, and he's a once a week guy now with me, which that's perfect for him. He's
Yeah.
busy. And then I
Yeah.
have one of the kids' dads, who's well, this is his the second of the two daughters is coming through.
Okay.
So I'm hoping one of those girls that I've coached will come back and be that coach.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's what I'm
that'd
hoping
be
for.
that'd be perfect. So how do you coordinate? I mean, you got the same situation I did at Denison. You got four schools coming in or three schools.
It's
So
my spreadsheet for travel is nuts. I mean, I have it all color coordinated. I got when you dismiss, what time we're leaving. Sometimes we pick up at certain schools because we'll drive by them. It's man, it's tough. But we don't start practice till 4:15 in the afternoon.
okay, and how do they get there?
Well, one school transports, the other ones do not.
So they get
One of the assistants I have, he actually lives in Storm Lake, and Storm
okay.
Lake comes. So he'll take all those kids, or as many as he can get in his vehicle, which probably is a liability issue.
Yeah.
But he takes them, and then one school transports. Uh, One is only 10 minutes away from us, so they're
Okay.
not too far. But
So what are
and
the schools? Storm
well,
Lake.
Storm Lake, Alta Aurelia,
Okay.
Galva Holstein, which Ridgeview is Galva Holstein and Shaler Crestland, which is early in Shaler, and
Okay.
then OABCIG.
Oh
So
wow. And where do you
uh,
practice?
we practice in Galva, right?
Okay.
It's right on
Room.
Highway 20, if you
I
remember.
have seen pictures. It looks like it's a gym. but
That's
or
I practice in the old elementary school gym. We have two of
okay,
those 7 section mats. Roll them out. We keep them taped. Roll them out
okay,
every day.
yeah,
Tape them in the middle. Roll them back to the ends.
okay. So you roll them up and out every day.
Yep,
Huh.
yep. But we only tape. We only have to tape the middle and
Okay,
stuff. So, and
yeah,
that's I actually love practicing there because it's our own space.
yeah.
I've been coaching girls for 6 years, so our stuff's up on the wall. So it's their home and stuff.
And
So.
where do you have duels, home duels?
The home duels are in Holstein, brand new gym. It's big.
Okay, and
I
they have
actually
that.
like when we sometimes go to the old gym, which is a little more intimate and a little loud. I'd
Yeah,
rather almost do them there. Our tournament, we can put 3 mats down
okay.
and stuff. So we have a big girls tournament. We have 25 teams come to that.
Wow, that's
So
great.
that's a fun one. Yeah,
Huh.
no, it's I really loved coaching there and stuff. I
Yeah.
want to finish out our interview some fun questions just to get to know you a little bit better. And and we're gonna start. You might have the same guilty pleasure food as myself. I love ice cream, and you might have contributed to that with morning practices and ice cream and cereal. But what's your guilty pleasure food?
Well, like a salad bar.
Really?
Salad bar and fried chicken. I could go to any supper club in Wisconsin, Iowa. That's my one of my goals is to hit as many. I just love them. I I could go to salad bar, have fried chicken, baked potato, stuff like that. I do like sweets, which I don't need at my age, but that's salad bar.
I
It
know a
surprises
lot.
you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I thought you might be an ice cream guy too.
No, no.
I grew up in an ice cream family, so ice
Yeah.
cream and Dr. Pepper. But
Ooh. Yeah.
um, I know you spend a lot of your time fishing, your off time.
Yep.
Do you have a like bucket list spot that you haven't been yet that you really want to go fishing at?
No, I've been fortunate. My wife Carol lets me do what I want to do fishing. I would never want to like go to the ocean and fish or anything. I really love going to Canada every year. There's a group of us that I've missed the last 2 years, but I'm going back this year. It's called the Classic. It's 37, 38 years. It's been the same group. It's truly a family. That's one
Yeah.
of the that's one of the things I look at is like Mr. Nugent at Denison used to have a group, but they never would invite me. So I started with Rick Dawson, who was a coach at
Uh-huh.
Storm Lake and a referee. And anyway, Rick and I we started the Classic with 6 of us with my brother. So I enjoy that. Um, I really like trout fishing. So Northeast Iowa, trout fish quite a bit. I go down to Branson and trout fish Colorado. If I was gonna pick one that I haven't done, it would probably be trout fishing out west somewhere. With my leg right now, I can't do that. But I just I got into sturgeon fishing. My nephew and my brother had done it, so we go up to Lake of the Woods in August and fish for sturgeon, and they're like prehistoric monsters, and they jump. So, Ernie on the boat last year caught a 62-inch
Wow.
sturgeon that had to weigh 70 pounds, and it came out of the water. And that's neat.
That's a big
Um,
fish.
yeah. So I could probably fish every day of my life. I just love it. Well, Carol, like I said, she lets me do it. It relaxes me. It's still a little bit of a competition.
Hmm.
When you're fishing, trout fishing and stuff, I do it by myself over here. But there's a stream about 3 streams about an hour from Parkview. So I I uh, I I've, I've just had a lot of fun, made a lot of friends,
Nice.
just going fishing.
So, do you and Carol ever get to sit down at night and binge any TV shows? Do you watch
Uh,
any?
yeah, Netflix is great. It might be harmful for my health though, because once I get going, we watch some shows together. I outline on my she'll start a program like Ozark. She started
Hmm.
that. She didn't like the beginning of it, so she never went back. Stranger Things. She watched the first 3 seasons. I think it got too weird for her, so she never went back. I've been watching the last one was Poldark. It's a PBS thing. about English. I like the Vikings. So we've
Uh-huh.
watched a lot of Netflix has been great, especially when I can't do certain things for various reasons. But it's addicting as heck. It,
It sure is.
it really
Uh,
is.
do you have a favorite movie? Do you guys?
Not the two of us. I would say my favorite movie would be like a little kids, Little Giants. You remember Little Giants?
Oh, yeah, I do remember the
Yeah,
Giants.
PE. I for a prize I had Little Giants, Sandlot, and The Big Green. And when it was the couple days before a holiday, we are going to be away. They could go in the gym if they wanted to. They could lift weights or a show. One of those. But the Little Giants is a great story. It's like
They're
it's got a great thing in it. You remember? I beat my bigger brother one time. So a
uh-huh.
kid who doesn't think he has a chance, he could do it just one time. That's all you need to do. I love that movie. So
Yeah, that's I do you I guess I haven't even asked you. I'm guessing you probably have a few grandkids by now.
yeah, I have four. My daughter Erin lives in Mount Prospect, Illinois. She's a teacher, history teacher at Wilmette High School or Wilmette Junior High, which is seventh and eighth grade, and there's 400 in each class. This is 800,
Wow, that's a big
and that
school.
leads into New Trier High School, and that it has five feeder programs. So each class would have 2,000 kids, and
Man.
that's too big for me. But where they live in, and she has three kids. Henry is 8, 7. Henry's in second grade. Nora's in kindergarten. No, Tommy Boy is in preschool. And then my daughter Katie, she lives in Indianola, and they have a kindergartner. Uh, so it's fun having the four kids, and we actually live exact 182 miles from our garage door to the people in Mount Prospect, 182 miles to the in southern Indianola. Jack is Katie's my kindergartner. Jack, how could I forget Jack's name? So no, they're successful. They like where they're at. I wasn't all in favor of driving into Chicago, but when you drive into Mount Prospect, once you get there and it's not a bad drive, you can go everywhere by walking or taking the train. So it's not.
I
That's
absolutely hate driving in Chicago. That's like I hate it.
yeah. Like I said, once you get there, actually, Indianola is not that easy because you ever been in Indianola?
Just a couple of times.
Well, there's a major highway goes through town, and it's only at one point it's only one lane this way and one lane that way, and there's you got to do a lot of left hand across traffic turns, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things I don't do that much. So I can pretty much get from we live in a little town Parkview, but I can pretty much get anywhere in Davenport without doing a left hand turn across traffic. So
I don't like Davenport a whole lot either, to tell you the truth. So I
yeah,
get there about once a year and stuff. My good friend Jason Lloyd's there. So
yeah. So when
uh,
you practice there on the way to the Disney thing, or
we
where?
did last year. We started flying out of Des Moines, so we practiced
Okay,
at Grandview now. But we were
yeah,
practicing at both. We got to where we were taking four teams, and now we're taking five. So
wow,
we were practicing at Assumption and then St. Ambrose. And they're
yeah.
close enough together that we could shuttle back and forth, and two teams would practice in one, and two teams would practice at the other, and it was crazy. Yeah,
You,
it's nuts how many kids we travel with now.
I know you wouldn't believe, you would not believe how North Scott's Russell facility. It's unbelievable. It's
It's
they built a new Y in Eldridge, and they had a community fitness center, and the school bought it, and they got down the middle. Uh, on the boys' side, there's four mats,
oh geez,
and on the girls' side, there's three mats.
that is a huge.
It's huge. They have locker rooms, coaches' rooms. It's unbelievable, and it can get. I mean, the ceilings are fairly high, but they can get the heat up. So it's the best. It's unbelievable.
Um, if you ever had the opportunity, and I don't know how close you're following now, new rule sets and stuff, but if you could be the head of the NFHS and make a rule change, what rule change would you make?
I don't think this would be that level, but there'd be two things I'd do. I would let eighth graders wrestle in Iowa. I don't
I
see
like that.
Minnesota's done that forever. South Dakota's done it. It would eliminate, it wouldn't eliminate, but it would be a better chance to fill out a lineup.
Yeah.
So that's the one rule that or addition, I think they should let eighth graders in. I don't know about seventh graders, but I think eighth graders could handle it, especially at the lower weights, because even around here with larger schools, they can't seem to. And they're never going to do this, but I'd probably go back to 13 weight classes, not 14, just to tighten things up.
Yep.
That's not a big deal. And at the college level, the first thing that I would do is I think this diving for the toes and grabbing the ankles and being in that stuff, I got to give them credit. They're more flexible. If I would have done that, I would have broke. But they should start calling stalemates sooner, because
Yeah.
they just need to call stalemates and get them back up on their feet, because it's not fun pushing and shoving and no shooting. Trust me, that's
Yeah.
no fun to watch either. But that scramble situation is just, it goes on and goes on. And plus, there's got to be people getting hurt, which
Yeah.
from that situation, I don't understand
And
why
it
they let it
usually,
go on. I'm seeing it stopped more, especially at the high school level. Though I've watched more high school wrestling duels and stuff this year than I probably have. But I would do those two. Let eighth graders come in and call stalemate on the scramble or whatever it's called.
I like it. Um, Wrestling has taught me to what?
To show up, do my job, listen to my coach, and walk back knowing I did everything I could to be as good as I could be.
If you could think of that, is there that one person that inspired you to be where you're at today? And maybe it
Oh,
wasn't at
I
today.
probably have three. I have
Okay.
heroes. I'm a big believer in heroes. You got to have somebody that you look up to and you aspire to be like them. So my dad would be one. My mom, dad would be together. My dad taught us hard work and the love of wrestling. My mom taught us stubbornness. Just don't accept failure. My high school wrestling coach, who is a legend, but not a god, but he's a hero to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And then my brother, who taught me that, you know what, you can do it. He did it. He got second in state as an 88, 85 pounder and won three state titles. So he showed me the way, and you got to have people that show you the way. So those three, I would, I kind of tried to aspire to be as much like them as I possibly could be.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think I might have the same three. My dad never got to play sports, and
Yeah,
it was very important to him that Todd and I got to uh, play sports. And now
yeah,
look, both of us, I don't know, countless number of kids we've coached over the years between the two of us,
yeah,
and and then just my mom's generosity,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And of course, Todd, I wouldn't be doing what I was doing without him, and it's kind of
yeah.
cool. Last year, I got the President's Award last year, and I got to walk with him and stuff. So
Okay,
that was
yeah,
really neat. And he coaches at Western Iowa, which is Atumwa, Westwood. He
okay,
coaches girls wrestling too.
okay, huh?
So we get to see each other a couple of times a year, which
Yeah.
is just super awesome. And then my high school coach kind of influenced me quite a bit too.
Well, I
Pretty good
enjoyed
guy.
working with you, and like I said, I can't believe, you know what? Every time I start talking girls wrestling, I mention you, because you have done so much for girls wrestling in the state of Iowa that
Well,
you should be wearing one of these Hall of Fame hats there.
I don't know if I'm quite that level, but I think that I heard somewhere wrestling's always been a passion of mine. I
Yeah,
loved wrestling, and when your passion starts helping people, it's your purpose.
yeah,
And so it was pretty early on when I started coaching girls that I realized that it was something I really enjoyed doing, and I've gotten to the point where I really love promoting the sport of wrestling.
yeah, and you're doing a tremendous job. How many of these podcasts have you done?
I think there's 85 long ones on Spotify now.
Okay,
and I've
Yeah.
got to talk to some amazing people. Frank Jasper,
Oh,
who
yeah.
played shoot. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got to talk to him. Wade Chalice.
Yeah. Wow.
I
Yeah.
got conversation with Wade, and I knew Wade through it. He worked with AAU for a couple of years and
Okay.
stuff. So I got to meet him. And then Emma Randall, who is the coach, women's coach at Columbia, and
Okay.
she also is the women's head RTC coach at the New York Wrestling Club, or
Okay. Yeah.
and she's coached in 3 Olympics.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I've met all these really neat people, and but it's so much fun. I just like to talk to people, and some of my favorite interviews are actually the high school girls,
Yeah.
just because you get to see them start their journey and see where
Yeah.
they're headed and
Yeah.
stuff. So
So is the
no, it's
state tournament Thursday and Friday this week?
Thursday and
Probably
Friday.
can't get in to see any of it though, can you?
Oh, if you, I'm sure you can get in.
Yeah. Yeah. The Tuesday North Scott wrestles in Iowa City for the regional duels with Bondurant, and if they win that, I think they wrestle Iowa City West.
Well,
And then the
if you,
Saturday must be the boys
yep,
state duels. The
yep. So
girls
if you
don't do duels.
we start state duels next year.
Okay. Is that
But
gonna
if
change the
North Scott makes it, you'll have to be there for finals
yeah, finals of the
of the girls. I'll give you a little secret if you get an opportunity to go, but I'll wait till that's after because I don't really want to
okay.
announce it
Yeah.
anywhere.
But
Um,
it's Thursday. It's
Thursday,
what day?
Friday.
Thursday,
Friday
Friday.
is Friday. Yeah, Friday is the finals night. I think like 6 o'clock
Okay.
and
Yeah.
stuff. It's a pretty cool environment there. That place is packed, and it's kind of like being in vets. Maybe not quite the movement on the floor, but the loud, as loud as it was,
Yeah.
and being on top of each other. It's a
Okay.
good environment, really good
Okay.
environment. I know
Huh.
you haven't been around girls wrestling much. But with North Scott, I'm guessing you run into the girls somewhat.
Yeah.
And from being a coach and to what you're seeing now, what do you think it means to wrestle like a girl?
I think it's a tough question. I would say that it doesn't really matter wrestling wise. You can compete, you're going to learn the technique, you're going to work as hard as you can for as long as you can. Um, I would say, from what I've seen, there's a little more enjoyment, a little
Hmm.
more camaraderie. As an athlete, I don't talk to anybody. I don't like anybody. I just it got in my way, which probably wasn't, but that's how I was motivated. But I
Hmm.
don't see that in the little bit that I've seen of girls wrestling. They just it's like going. Have you ever gone to a softball game?
Yep.
And
There's a
there's
lot of
noise.
relationships that are developed.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and I think that's great. I think that's great. I think it's been great for the sport of wrestling. I swear it probably saved the Olympics back 10, 12 years ago.
Yep.
And they're getting, I haven't watched a lot. The higher level kids that have gone to clubs are probably technique wise very good. The ones I've seen, I would say that their skill level or their strength level probably isn't quite where it needs to be yet, but it's just slowly progressing,
Yep.
you know.
You would be amazed from if you were looking at it from how I've been doing 11 years, the level that it's jumped is insane.
Yeah,
And the top girls in the state are pretty legit wrestlers. I will tell you
yeah,
that they're
yeah,
very good. So,
yeah, yeah.
you got any final thoughts for anybody
Um,
listening?
no, if there's somebody from Denison, Carol and I enjoyed our 30 years. She was there too. Anyway, I enjoyed our time there. We haven't been back very much. We feel bad about that, but with the kids and everything, she just recently retired about a year ago. So I enjoyed that experience. I'm a proud Brit boy. I'll brag up Brit as much as I can because it gave me a lot. And it's just a little farm town that's had a lot of success and a lot of things because they're hard
Yep.
nosed and dedicated, and the community supports them. So, no, that once again, I thank you for doing this. Uh, would have never dreamt that something like this, but actually, this is about the third podcast I've done. So,
Very cool.
guy from a guy,
I watched the Brit one.
yeah, that guy. He's done like 180 of them, and
Wow.
he's still got, and it's just Brit. He needs to try. Dan need, and he's he's like a super guy. He runs the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. The Sanger, it's tremendous. But it's a way to get out your story, and I was blessed. Grew up with a wrestling family and a sport, and had great leaders, and worked with great people as a coach, and um, now I get to just fish whenever I want to.
Awesome. Well, thank
Yeah.
you very much for coming on. I
All
appreciate
right.
it. It's been really fun.
Okay. Thanks a lot. And you know what? I'm going to contact you about those tickets because I think Carol and I would, that'd be fun.
All right.